All right. Hey guys, listen, thanks for joining us on our podcast this morning, or if you're watching this on video, we are excited to show our faces. Today we have Mo. And so let's talk about a little bit of our background with Margaret. And so if you followed us for any amount of time on social media, you know we're good friends with Margaret and we absolutely adore her and everything that she does. And we actually recorded a podcast months ago that we have had, for whatever reason, not been approved. Right. So we have gotten the big red X. And so we said, you know what, let's just skip that because so much has changed. This was pre-pandemic since then that we needed an updated chat with Mo because she has done so much since then that it is completely different. So Margaret, thanks again for joining us. We always love chatting with you. And I want to start this off with, since the pandemic hit, you have been doing unbelievable things. Can you fill us in on everything you've been doing in under like 30 minutes?
Sure. And I kind of love this idea that maybe anytime we do a podcast, it just gets denied, so we have to do it again. Like this is right? Second round. Who knows what's gonna come out? Yeah, I love that we now like qualify things pre-pandemic, during pandemic, it'll be post-pandemic.
Right.
Yeah. So it kind of all spiraled. I was in Minneapolis teaching right before everything started to happen real serious in Seattle. And so I got a message from a couple people from the retreat that I had going on in the next couple weeks. And they were just like, you know what, I can't come. And then all of a sudden Seattle was like 48 hours from lockdown. And I was like, all right, we got to get home. And so after that happened, I alerted the girls that were going to come to the retreat. And basically what started to come out was a lot of the fear that they were feeling. And I'm like, no, we do not do fear. We will do reasonable amounts of fear when necessary, like when you're running from a tiger, as they say. But I'm not, like, we're not doing this. And so in that moment, I had this idea, like, you know what, Margaret, you can't do the retreat in person. Why not do something like that online? And so the idea of Operation Tungsten Light, I had a secret little committee that was helping me with the retreat this year. It was like 5 girls that have come a couple times, and they were helping me recruit speakers, get money, all this stuff. And I had called them Operation Tungsten Light. And I said, you guys, do you mind if I take this name and go use it for this group? And they were like, hell no, Margaret, do it. And so that was born. And so all in a matter of like 48 hours, I got the group up and I started recruiting speakers. And so the whole idea that I had behind it was to get 1 to 2 speakers a day to talk about anything: mindset, cooking, hair, makeup, yoga, fitness, all sorts of different things. And then I got Sarah Trotsky, who used to work with me at Pickett Street, and I got Andy Dunn, who's another local admin, to help me. And so we each took a piece of the process. My job is to recruit speakers, get them signed up, and now Sarah gets the events online on the Facebook group and markets it. And then she and Andy have been switching off to take breaks, and it's just like clockwork. So we've been doing that now for, I think we've been at 50 days, and we have had over like 80 presentations.
That's amazing.
So it's been amazing. So that's been the bulk of what I've been doing, along with just my job at Pickett Street, which has been really interesting, as I'm sure you guys have experienced, transitioning from working in an office to working completely remote, which I've actually really enjoyed. And I've really enjoyed being at home. And but I know a lot of people have had a hard time with it. So that's a little bit of what's been happening. Yeah.
I love that. And on that note, it's kind of funny. I mean, we all work from home all the time, right? At REbox and SHEP. And so one of the ways that we've really been able to give back through this is to help our clients and help our even non-clients, just anybody that's reached out to us going, how do you guys do this? And how have you done this for 6 years? And how do you manage 40 people this way? You know, and it's been a really unique experience, because not only are we able to help people, but people have also kind of started understanding our world a little bit more, where pre-pandemic, you know, and even 6 years ago when we first started, it was really hard for people to understand the fact that we run all of these people online, that we are in all different locations. And well, does that really work? Well, yeah, it does. And so now that everyone's had a taste of it, I think that human element has really come back for us. At least in my conversations, people have kind of gone down the road of, well, you're online, so I can't really see you, so I don't feel connected to you at all. You know, and now everyone's online, and people are starting to go, oh, well, just because they're online doesn't mean that they're not human. And you know, a real person. It's just that they're not in a brick and mortar office. They're in a brick and mortar room in their house or a temporary, whatever it may be. So yeah, I think that's a interesting.
That's been an interesting conversation too, to talk about. Like, I've had a few conversations with a couple different leaders and teachers, and because I've experienced for sure, first of all, like a huge number of Zoom calls, more than I've ever had before. The first couple of weeks were really overwhelming. And then the energy that you put out into the screen, you don't get back because you're not like in real life, you're not within. Yeah. And so that's been learning how to handle that kind of depleting kind of energy and taking more breaks and being more purposeful about self-care has been huge.
It's a mindset. What we found, and this is something that we talk about in some of our workshops and stuff, is you're doing it 10 plus, right? You're over communicating. So if I want you to feel my energy, I've got to move, and I've got to, you know, I have to talk with passion, and I have to everything else, even more so than I would in person. And then you're exactly right. When we're teaching, and this is something Alicia and I talk about, because we have a ton of experience teaching, but when you do a webinar, you're not getting that same feedback just because of the nature of the platform. And how do you really, you gotta stay solid up here in order to keep that passion and keep pushing through it. One thing I really loved about Tungsten Light was the fact that, and there's that quote that everybody likes to have a meme about with, you know, Mr. Rogers, where it says,
I love that guy.
I love that. That was something that Alicia and I talked about a lot, because especially when the pandemic first started, we really amped up our posting. And thank God we haven't had to have it at that level anymore, because that was killing me. But we really amped up our posting because there was so much negativity and so much hate and so much fear, like you said. And there were so few people. And again, there were lots of people, but they just weren't showing up on social media. There were so few people that were truly saying, we're still human beings. And yes, this is happening, but this doesn't define us. We're still us. And that's what I liked about, and that's what I do like about the Tungsten Light project is, you know, it is about yoga or gardening or like such mundane. It's not a webinar about leadership skills or surviving a pandemic.
No.
It's about how to cook an amazing lasagna, right? Like, and that's the piece that I love, is because I think business owners, especially, I think real estate especially, because it tends to run at a fast pace and we're all in that area. We focus on the big as if, okay, we're going to survive this week and then it's all going to be over. And this is something that's going to take us a long time. And so remembering that gardening and cooking and yoga and self-care and mindset, you know, all those things are just as important as the leadership skills and the major decisions in business. And that's what I really appreciate about it. Cause I tend to swing on the business side, and even just seeing the stream, I go, there's more out there. You know, it's like, it just reminds me, we're still human beings. We're still mommies and daddies and brothers.
I love that you bring up the fact that it's mundane things, because it's everyday stuff that we do and we don't really think about it. And then when something might get taken away, like being able to go to a park or go hiking. And then also I really wanted to remind people like, hey, this is also an opportunity. So, I mean, I think the first 3 weeks, as when I talked to a lot of people about, there were a lot of people around me in this area because we were hit so hard so fast. And also just because I think it was human nature, but they were not okay sitting in with their own shit. So like if they had a problem going on that they had not addressed for years, now they're at home sitting with themselves, they have to face it. And all of a sudden they were getting angry, they were getting scared, they were getting sad. And I was like, hey, take this time to like talk to your kids more. Or like, how about you actually like, if you always wanted to garden in the front yard, why don't you actually do that? Because you have the time, or maybe not the time, but you can be intentional with your time. So I just really wanted to remind people like, hey, you have a chance. It's all about what you choose to do. And if you can choose to sit there and complain and instill more fear in other people, then you can do that. But I refuse to do that because that's not helping anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I got fired up about that. I'm like,
I love that.
Move closer to the camera.
I know you and Alicia both have that same habit. Well, and one of the things I loved was you were doing this series, and I'm going to misquote this, but it was where you were saying social distancing, but not social distancing.
It was called
physical distancing.
Social or physical, not social distancing.
Yes, that was it. And I loved that because that also, and Alicia pointed this out, we always, one of the things people say about REbox and SHEP is they're like, I need more personal, even though we're like, hey, we're on a Zoom, like I can, for me to come and
like they need your interaction to be more personal, or they needed your content to be more personal?
No, they're in the sense of, they're still thinking in the physical sense, right? Like I need to go and touch you in order for you to be able to work with us. Exactly. But that's the other part.
I've only touched you briefly. I've never touched Alicia.
Exactly. Well, and that's what I love.
Do we want this?
Right? But that's what I love is, I mean, look at where we're sitting right now. I'm in Alaska. You guys are somewhere else because we don't know any place other than Alaska when we were in Alaska. And this would not happen in the physical sense. I would have to fly, and especially in the middle of a pandemic, I would have to fly to go and see you ladies, where this brings us together. And that's what I loved about that series, is it really was like, no, it's not, again, it's physical, not social. And so I thought that was I think that is such an important message, you know?
Yeah, I think I you know, it's been an interesting time spending more time with myself too. Like I've talked a little bit about my intuition and how things have really sparked and been moving. And I have all these ideas that are just flying out. Like you can see, I'm like in my bedroom right now. Yeah. Behind me is my wall of words that I'm working on. I feel like one of those, I asked someone the other day, I was like, at what point do you think I'm crazy? Is it when I'm making hash marks on my wall, or like when I'm doing like math? And the guy was like, it's math. When you're doing math on your wall, then we know you've gone like all Picasso crazy. But I love reminding people again. And I loved that interaction, because when I asked people if you want to be a part of the series, they were like, they would raise their hand. So I drove down to Renton, which is like 50 minutes away, but it's like an opportunity to remind them, hey, I'm still here. I still have the luxury of sitting at home, baking cookies, and then getting in my car and going for a drive. Like we haven't had everything taken away. It's just
right.
So just to clarify too, anybody that has not heard of Tungsten Light, it is essentially a Facebook group, and is available on Facebook. And Mo, is it going to continue? What is the vision for people who are like, this sounds really cool, I want to check it out? Tungsten Light on Facebook. What are we looking at in the next 30 days for it?
Well, in Washington where I'm at, we're still in technically lockdown through May 30th. So we have, after like 2 weekends ago, so I go through these bouts of like, I'll just message a bunch of people, I'll connect with a bunch of speakers, and we get a bunch lined up. So we have another like 20 lined up for the rest of the month. And then after that, I'm really just going kind of week by week, because everything's changing so quickly. And so right now, all I know is that Tungsten Light's not going away. Not going to be stopping. It might change after the pandemic, or after like we're back to semi-normal, or whatever the new normal is. But it's not going to be disappearing. There's a lot of valuable content that's been recorded and put on there. And so I don't know exactly what's going to happen yet. I think I might poll the people that are in there and ask them what they want.
Absolutely.
But it's just going to be it's one of those examples of what I used to not do, which is I used to not take action because I didn't know what the final end piece was going to be. Well, now I almost swore. What if iTunes takes us? I don't want iTunes
to ban us again.
So I just take action, and then I'm like, I'll worry about the end later, but this is what I know is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Neat.
Well, a lot of people have been like, what does Tungsten Light mean? Like, why Tungsten Light?
Yeah.
And
okay, do we have to bring up our private conversations here?
I was just going to say, Jen.
What? Oh, yeah, not you. I wasn't even referring to you. That's hilarious. But there's a lot of people, because they don't know what Tungsten Light is, and then the why behind it. So the tungsten light refers to the light in the bulb. And again, I'm not scientific, so it's like those Edison lights kind of is what I imagine. It's the, Alicia, do you know?
Oh, no. See, I do visual. This is this is the question.
So it's literally like, so it's in reference to, I did a podcast with Enmay Mangles, who's a strategic intuitive advisor. And in the podcast, she referred to me as tungsten light, which means like I could step into the dark and I will literally start something from nothing. And that gave me such validation and such positive vibes that that is where Operation Tungsten Light, which could apply to anything in the world, came from.
Nice.
That's really neat. I love that. So fill us in on your wall behind you, because it's obviously staring right at us. If you are listening to this podcast, go to YouTube and watch the video. So basically, if you're listening, Mo has behind her a wall of all these really cool kind of quotes and intentions. So fill us in on how this started and what that's all about.
Yeah. So since I've moved into this house, I haven't really decorated a lot, and I don't really need to decorate because it's just an art piece like of itself. But when I get, impatient and I want things to do, or I wanted to decorate my room in some fashion, I've always wanted to write on the wall. I've always wanted to do this. And I was like, what better freaking time than now?
Yeah.
And also it's like, goes back to when I was growing up and my mom would let us be messy. She would let us do art projects. She would encourage us to get messy. And how many kids want to take a Sharpie marker to the wall and just write whatever the hell they want?
Right.
And so I told people I was doing this, and then I've been getting quotes and song pieces and words from people. And so like one quote up there says, life is beautiful, live it. And that's from my friend Ada, who went through lymphoma. And that was something she had t-shirts made. And so it's always going to be up on her wall. So like little pieces of it. And my idea behind this is to pack it so that it looks like like a graphic piece of art with just words just slammed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And it's been fun to do when I feel like it. Again, one of those things like that I've really been embracing and COVID times is doing something that feels good for you when you need it. And so that's been kind of a fun, totally different project that I haven't done in a long time. Yeah.
Well, and I love that because it's essentially, wow, this back here, that's my version of that. I don't have nice handwriting, so I'm not doing that. But there are things that, when they go low, we go high, or the waves are going to keep coming, learn to surf,
when they go low, they go high.
Yeah.
I'm adding that one. Okay.
Yeah. My two favorites are that, and they're not mine, or, the waves are going to keep coming, learn to surf, because it's like, you're not going to change the world to become this beautiful, easy, predictable, consistent place. That's not what it is. It is chaos. So you can be overwhelmed by the chaos. You can be overwhelmed by the fear, or you can say, this is what it is. And let me just learn this. Let me learn how to surf, because I don't have to be destroyed by the waves. I can rise above it and I can enjoy them. And that's what you're doing, is you're saying, yes, all of this is going on and we can still enjoy life. We can still enjoy our world. We can still go garden or cook or whatever. And yes, all this other is overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be.
And it reminds me of, so I've always, my team, and sometimes my family will tease me because I was always super intrigued by the Holocaust time. I was intrigued with, like when I interviewed with Jesse for Pickett Street, and he asked me what my favorite book was, I said, Diary of Anne Frank. Because the reason I'm obsessed with it is because the power of words, and how someone could organize something like that and actually execute on it. And then also, like, how long was Anne in quarantine for? Plus, she couldn't leave. She had to be quiet. And all these things. And we were complaining, like people were complaining it was like 2 weeks in. I said, come on, people, 14 days. And you can still go to the grocery store. You can make food. I was like, this is not the level. And so you got to remind people sometimes. And then also that's why I put, like, on that side of the wall, on the other side of the door, I started doing the Mother Teresa quote, which says, like, be kind anyways, forgive them anyway. Because there's definitely moments where I have to be like, okay, Margaret, they're not in their head. They're not they're not okay right now. So you need to just move on, forgive them, let it go. Because everybody's allowed to deal with it however they need to and want to. And I just hope to be an influence on the fact that they have a choice. That's all.
Exactly. Well, and I think going back to that, it all ties into, I always think about energy as currency. And when you think in that manner that your energy is constantly your currency, it just makes you so much more intentional about what you put it towards. Like, and that's something that I wake up every morning and I remind myself, my energy is currency. I can pay into whatever I want to pay into today. If I want to pay into the hype and the news, I can do that. I never do that, by the way. But it's the same thing as, and I think this rings true for Operation Tungsten Light, is the fact that people are taking their energy, and instead of getting in the ring of fire and going through the news and fear and, your emotions are building, you don't even realize they're building. And then you pull off your phone after an hour and a half and you're just totally freaked out. Instead, you are paying into something very different and you're being very intentional about that. And I think that's extremely important.
No, that's a good point. I think the other thing that I realized that I didn't even realize was going to be a side effect is is the benefit that the speakers and the presenters get. So it's a wide range of people that have never talked in front of a group to people who have talked and coached in front of thousands of people. And for no matter who they are, the feedback that I get from them is like, oh, I'm excited to plan for this. And then they're on like this sort of high afterwards because it's distracted them. It's gotten them back into something creative. And so there's been a big benefit. And I love, like Jake Cookston is one of my best friends, partners. I've wanted him to teach and speak for a long time about wisdom, because the guy is like legit. He's 28 years old and he's been through more life than like most people I know.
Yeah.
And yet he's never taken the opportunity. So I love like pulling someone out and saying, okay, do this. I promise you're going to be okay. And then they're on this high for just weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to see the effect on the speakers too.
That's amazing.
And one thing I just wanted to point out, because I do think, I agree with Alicia, and she and I have talked about this, like, don't pay attention to the news. I honestly don't read the news until this, but there's a lot of people that are in my situation where I'm very careful about my bubble and I'm very careful about what's allowed into it. And then COVID comes along and that goes away, because now I have to pay attention to the news because I'm a business owner. I have to understand about what loans are coming out, what sort of stimulus, like I have to, because I'm responsible for 40 people, right?
Yeah.
And so that is such a drain on your energy if you're a person like
exhausting.
me.
Yeah.
It's exhausting because it's just negative. Like Alicia was saying, you're going into it and it's not a choice. You've got to do that because you got to know about what's coming.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's the other piece that's nice is the Tungsten light. You can sit there and you can go, you can get in that and you get in that dark place and then you kind of look up and you go, one of my friends was one of your speakers. And there she is being totally silly and being goofy. And I'm like, you know, and like, you just get to take that. Like, it's like,
I'm pretty sure when she had started having me go like this, I was like,
yes.
Well, I'm in this. So I'm just going to start. Like, it made me laugh so hard.
Yeah. And I would love to tell you that that's not her, but straight up, that's her to a T, always and always has been. But that's the other piece of it too. So if you are a person that you have to get into that negativity, if you have to go wade in all that ickiness, right? Alicia and I are both on social media all the time. And we talk about the fact that we hate being on social media all the time because your bubble, you know, is getting hit from all sides.
Yeah.
And then you can jump out and you can say, okay, look at that. Okay. You know? So yeah, I love the idea behind it. And I love that. What after that? Like, what's next? Like, you kind of have set the bar a little bit high here, my friend. Like, how are you going to one up yourself? All right.
That's the constant journey. Yeah. I think, you know, I always love a challenge, and I love showing people what's possible through social media. And so a lot of these contacts I've made, the first round were like people that I already knew. And then the second and the third round have been people that they know, so that there are people that are reaching out to me now saying, hey, can I present? I mean, I went on Instagram, and when we were about to do, I really wanted to do a session on dating during quarantine, because that's also this other part of my life that has been so bizarre when you get messages from guys, or anybody, but for me, it's guys that are, hey, do you want a quarantine buddy? Or are you looking for something long-term?
That's the new one. Okay, good to know. Can we talk about your dating life on here? Can we dive into this for 5 minutes? Can you please
open right now?
Fill me in on what this looks like to date during a pandemic. Is that a thing? Do you have to wait? What is this?
Yeah. It just depends on who you are and what you're comfortable with. And so when it first started, like within days, I'm not kidding you, I told people, I was like, get on apps if you're not on apps, just because if you want to meet people, because there's this whole rush of people that normally wouldn't put themselves on an app. And I don't love apps either. However, I don't want to meet people, I don't meet people in my everyday life normally enough.
Right.
And so it gives me access to a lot of other different people. And there were like an onslaught of really cool guys that got on there because they were either bored or because they realized, well, this might be my time to meet someone, because I'm making more time. And so there's actually some really cool people that got on there. So not kidding you, the week before we went into quarantine, I met somebody that I was like, oh my God, I want to meet you. And then it hasn't happened. And I met somebody the week after quarantine started, I think. And we had like the most amazing conversations, and I like about energy and about all the stuff that I've never met a guy who would never want to be open to talking to me about that, but also be interested and be able to talk and see things in me that I normally, like, people don't call out. And so it's almost like it's given me this opportunity overall, I'm an extremely patient person. Like on any personality assessment, I'm like at 98% of patience. I have never been so impatient in my entire life. I've been during quarantine, and not only to meet these guys, but just for like life the new life to happen.
Right.
And so, you know, I've had some of the best conversations via Zoom, and I have met somebody in person. So it's just been very much like, it's been, because obviously I'm extremely cautious but I have a roommate who's a social worker, And then my friend downstairs, my tenant, is also a resident at a hospital. So I've probably been more exposed to a number of people than most. And so like, I haven't seen my parents in like 2.5, 3 months, and I probably won't see them again for, and I, you know, as long as my mom feels comfortable. So probably another 3 months, I bet. And then one of my brothers just had a baby on Sunday, another one's due next month. So like, I'm just very aware of all the things that are happening, and I'm cautious, but at the same time, like, it just depends on what people are comfortable with, I think, and what the precautions that you take.
Right.
Well, yeah. I think one thing that you said, and I think this is so important, and I wish we could just beam this into everyone's mind. You don't get to judge. And I'm a judgy person. Like, girlfriend, I am the judgiest person on the planet.
Yeah.
But you do not get to judge how someone goes through this.
Right.
Some people are going to respond.
I don't even think I know you as the judgiest person on the planet.
Oh, really? No, I am. I am.
How did I make it through? How did I make it through?
Because I'm older. That's why. I'm not going to lie. Like, you should have seen me 20 years ago. It was awful. But understanding and being that whole be kind, right? Because you may not understand how somebody's going through something, but just be kind. Just have faith in the human spirit and say the fear or the anger. And we've talked about this a lot in REbox and SHEP, because we do have people who will call and lose their mind, and you got to just take a breath, because it's like, you don't know what just happened to that person. They could have someone who's sick. They could have someone who isn't taking care of themselves. They could have this, they could have that. And it's, I love that you say that so many times, in regardless of what we're talking about, is it's what's comfortable for you. It's what works for you. It's what you need to do to get through this. And I think that is such an important theme that we don't talk enough about, you know?
And it can be applied to everything after this in life. I always say you can disagree with anybody you want. You can disagree with how things are being handled. You can disagree with, and you can create your own path for yourself, but still be kind. You don't need to bash that person all the time. You don't need to put them down. You don't need to like.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think it's a never-ending theme, and because it's still possible. I have so many different kinds of friends, and it's still possible to be friends with someone and not agree with everything that they say or do, as long as it aligns. Like, my ultimate value is that you respect who I am and who I choose to be, and I respect who you are and who you choose to be. And as long as that works, and I think, like, again, this came from just how I grew up, and having experienced being bullied and being teased and things like that, I realized how important that was to me, and that I was never going to do that to another person. I was never going to make someone not feel included, not feel loved, not feel acknowledged. Because that's a basic human, like, anybody can do that. So.
Exactly. So Tungsten Light continues. We don't know where that's going to grow. That's exciting. I love that. So tell us a little bit more about your life. Obviously, what does it look like heading back to the pre-pandemic state? 9 to 5. I mean, where are we going here?
She said dating. She already said that. Number one goal, we're dating. Like, you answer that. No.
I get that. I mean, if that's a 24-hour job, you will be hooked up in no time. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, that's been like an interesting part. And the other thing, the last thing I'll say about the dating piece is that forcing a lot of people to get really creative. I mean, if you're not going to meet people in real life, like, how do we make this interesting? And so the thing that they have online now is, like, you can take tours of museums through virtual tours, right? Just like you do in real estate. So it's been hysterical. People are doing, like, cooking classes together, then eating dinner together via Zoom. And so it's hysterical.
That's so funny. I would die if I had to eat in front of somebody via Zoom when I'm trying to, like, date. That was my biggest thing I hated when I was dating, was going out to eat. I don't like to eat around other people. I don't like other people eating around me. So if I had to do that on Zoom, I'd just be like, I'm a nun. For the rest of my life, I will be a nun. Not doing it.
I can't wait to see you eat. It's never happened. So, I mean, I just can only imagine.
Life goals, #, life goals, right?
I eat a lot, but I'm not eating in front of people, specifically not on Zoom.
Right.
It's hysterical.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what's next?
Yeah. So that's, and then, I mean, so what's happened with Pickett Street during this whole time is it's been interesting. Like, we had someone join the team 2 weeks after we got quarantined. And so her entire onboarding has just been online. Yeah. She's up in Arlington, which is where Jessica and Christina Jagels lived. And then we had to apply for the PPP loan within 4 weeks, and we didn't get it fast enough. So in the first week, we actually had to let 2 people go. One was salaried, and then one, that was Christina Jagels. She was the other admin. And then the other one was our inside sales agent, who was part commission, part salary. And then 4 weeks in, I actually called up Jesse like a week after that and said, hey, good news, you should let me go. And he was like, what? And I said, yeah. I said, this is the time. And he was like, no. But he applied for the PPP loan and we finally got approved. And so I was unemployed for 2 weeks, which I have to say, like, I'm really impressed with the system and how everything operated, because I didn't miss. I applied for unemployment and it happened like that. It was so quick.
Wow.
So then we got the PPP loan. And so I've been reemployed as of, it'll be 2 weeks this coming Monday. But having this time at home, like I've said previously, has been really good for me, because I've realized how much, I've always known that my environment has a huge impact on me. I'm like a sponge. And so to have separation from people, I've realized that it's really time for me to do something on my own. And so I've had that conversation with Jesse a couple weeks ago, which, we talked about this on our podcast, like over the years, he's done a really good job and I've done a good job at pivoting and saying, okay, I'm done with this part. Like, what can I do now to get my creative energy still flowing, do something different, experience something different. And I'm just done with my role. And so I have no idea what I'm going to do, but we have a plan in place now. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably after this has already been announced. And so we have this whole plan for, I'm going to hire someone hopefully else before I leave, another admin for the team. And then I'm just going to start what I always wanted to do, which I've never taken the leap and do it, which is really funny that my word for the year is leap. I'm going to open it up to conversation with anybody. So I literally want to announce it on social media, and because I've never had that chance to do that before, and just say, hey, I don't have to stay in real estate. I don't have to do anything in particular. I don't think I want to be employed by anybody right now. I want to start my own thing. So maybe that's Operation Tungsten Light, in some different capacity or some interesting way. But I'm really excited to have those conversations and just to have the opportunity to really see what I'm capable of, because I don't think I've fully experienced that yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm excited for you. I'm so excited. And it doesn't really have anything to do with, leaving or anything like that. It has to do with the unknown. And that is, you're speaking to two business owners that have gone through that. And that is such an exciting time. Yeah. And even beyond, if you say, okay, I'm going to do this, and you start diving down that, the doors that can constantly be opened that you go, okay, cool. And I'm going to partner with this person over here. I'm going to partner with this person over here. And I'm going to do this. I mean, just the evolution of being a business owner is, it's a lot, but it is so exciting. I mean, we have loved it. And I don't think either of us would ever go back to being employed again since starting our ventures. And I mean, you're talking to a partnership right here that we've dove into, and there's a lot of other partnerships that are just, I don't know, it's exciting. You never know what's around the corner from your conversations. And
I was going to say,
something I really value too, is that the more that I've learned about myself, the more it's given me the courage to do this, because most recently, I don't know if either one of you have done human design chart work. Yeah. Alicia.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I have not done it. I have looked into it from, I think, our last conversation, or maybe it's something I saw on Tungsten Light.
Okay. The lady's going to be on there today at 4:00 actually, talking about it. But one of the things that it said, and one of the things that I've come to realize is I like to play with a lot of different things. I need variety, and I like to just dabble in things and see what I can add to it to make it magical. And that's exactly what you guys just described is, I want to see what doors open, and I have no idea what they are. And my mom's definitely anxious about it for me. And at the same time, she also when I talk about it with people right now, and I haven't talked about it a lot yet, obviously, but they look at me and they're like, wow, you have this certainty and how you just said that. And I said, I know, I feel very certain that whatever's coming is what I'm meant to be doing, or more of what I'm meant to be doing. And I feel really good about it.
Absolutely.
And I love that you're saying this, because I think one of the things that is a byproduct, and a very positive one, of this whole situation is it does make people remember that life is not infinite, that there is a beginning and an end, and how do you want to live each day? Yeah. We've gotten into this, and I was talking to a friend about this, and this is, those of you that are listening, I'm sorry, you're not going to like any of this right now. Words like hustle and grind and focus and one thing, and those have become catchphrases. Yeah. And I think we lose a lot. Remember the Renaissance period. Remember the times where people were an artist and a musician and a mathematician and a this and a that. And they were all in the same person because our lives are long and we are able to do so much with them. And I think we've lost a lot of that in the pursuit of production and accomplishment. And instead of looking at the world as our life is the accomplishment, we look at the thing we're working on. And Alicia and I have talked about this because it's very easy to get sucked into that hole. For example, in REbox, right? We run files. That is something that we do. In Alicia's world, she is getting marketing widgets, right? So she's like, so it's very easy to go, I need more widgets, I need more files, I need more everything else. But does that feed your soul? Does that feed your team's soul? Because you don't need to do files for a million years if that's not what feeds your soul. If it does, that's great. You don't need to do marketing if that's what you, right? We are these beings that are capable of doing and learning so much. And because of the hustle and the grind and the this and the that, we forget about that. And that's something I really noticed.
Speaking of that, like somebody said something to me a couple weeks ago, this guy that I met through one of the apps actually, he said, why are people acting like this is a dress rehearsal?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a dress rehearsal.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm workaholic. It's what I've been called my entire life. And I love it. I do. I love it. Yeah. And with that being said, there has to be a balance. And that's something that I've had to really make sure that I put into my life, because naturally I don't make sure there's that balance. And so living overseas has been probably the biggest thing for me, 6 months out of the year, opening my eyes to everybody's home at 5. What? You guys aren't staying late? I mean, when I graduated college, I went into the MBA, and the first thing they taught us was the first person to go home is going to be the first person to be fired. And you wanted to be the last person home. I stayed there 7:30 at night. I'd get there at 6 a.m. And because that was what was needed, right? I needed to do that to get to that next stage. And that's always been built into my system. Now I've realized my passion is marketing. It really is. But I also have other passions. And it's okay to say, okay, my passion of marketing is going to be 9 to 5. So that after 5, I can dive into my other passions and balance out that grind and that hustle and all those words we just talked about, because I do enjoy that. And I love giving that to my clients, but yet there can be other things. It doesn't have to be 100% marketing all the time. When I'm done with the 9 to 5, I have to go read a marketing book, and then I have to listen to marketing podcasts, and I have, it's a lot. And I did that for many years, and it'll burn you out. I don't care what
I love what you said there. And I think it reminded me of, again, like respecting where people are at, because I think it's interesting that you've been called a workaholic, and I'm sure people have thought the same of me. And yet I also embrace like whatever it is that you're passionate about. So because people have all sorts of expectations around like, I know people in my family, immediate and extended, have had expectations about how much time I would spend with them, or I do spend with them, or what I do with them. And same with my friends and friends that haven't grown with me as I've been growing. And so,
that's huge.
Again, like a balance. What is a balance? What does that mean to you? If that is something different than what it looks like for me, that's cool. And really, what I've appreciated is from all of this is I've appreciated the people in my life that have supported me no matter where I'm at in the journey. So there will be people when this is announced, that will change. That will come up to me and that will say, oh my God, I'm so excited for you, Margaret. And I haven't spoken to them in 4 or 5 years because they're excited for this part of my journey. They didn't support me while I was here. And I, because people have had all sorts of opinions about why haven't I left? Why didn't I go then? Why didn't I go 5 years ago? Why didn't and I'm sorry, but that's none of your business. And
thank you. Yes.
You should support me where I'm at. It wasn't a time for me to leave. It was, I was developing.
Every part of your journey is there for a reason. Yes. And other people may never see that reason, and that's okay. They're not supposed to. That's your journey for a reason.
Well,
right.
And that goes back to that judgy thing, right? Which again, queen of judging. That's something that I work on a daily basis, because when I move fast, I talk fast, I move fast, I think fast, everything in my world is fast. I am married to a man that is like that sloth from, I can't even remember the movie we just watched, right? Like but he is, you know him. He just is
he
so.
Is he just an internal processor too?
Yes, in a special kind of crazy way. He's a first responder, right? You don't want to have someone like me rolling up when you're hurt. I'm going to be, okay, and you're potentially dying and this is going on and this, right?
Like he's Mr. Do this.
Yeah. He's like Mr. Calm, cool, and collected. And my daughters tend to lean more towards him than they do me. And so that's been amazing in my world to learn. I can't judge that. There's nothing wrong with that. He's an incredible human being that gives back in amazing ways, often in ways that I can't, right? And accepting that. So what you were saying, and the reason I bring that up is what you were saying, you know, you're going to have these people who come out of the woodwork that say, you know, now I support you. That it's none of your business thing is something I think that everybody, specifically in America, needs to understand, because working 15 hours a day, if that gives you passion and energy, then that's awesome and you should do it. If it doesn't and you're doing it because your best friend is doing it and you want to look cooler, then you shouldn't do it. You know, it's not a badge of honor, right?
Exactly.
Like it's not a badge of honor to have the most money, to work the most, to sleep the least, to everything else. It's what feeds your soul and gives you the energy to be the best you.
And don't beat yourself down.
Personal.
If you have to work, like, I mean, Jen and I have both been culprits of this, or we go through years of working 12, 15-hour days at least. And that's just what needed to be done. We felt like for our businesses and what we need to give back to our teams and our clients. And then right now, and there's no judging, because right now, both of us are going, okay, that's something that we just don't want right now. So now we need to find, you know, systems and everything in place that this is when this starts, this is when this ends. And then after that, it's family time. You know, there's just ebbs and flows, and you can't sit here today and go, man, I'm beating myself up for that year that I wasn't available to my friends and family as much as I should have been, because you were available to your work and that's what was needed. And you felt like that was okay at the time. But then now
like both are the same way in terms of like, my work is, it's not about real estate. Like real estate's the conduit or the avenue. But because I'm doing what I'm passionate about within real estate, it's feeding people. It's showing people like that what they think is impossible is actually very possible. And I'll do that in any industry. It doesn't matter what. So people have to understand that because I've found what I feel like my soul is supposed to do here, I will never stop, because that feels good. That should be good. A guy just scored.
Yes. Okay. Bleep it out. I love that. Well, okay. So anybody that's listening to this, Mo, how would they get in contact with you? And I will encourage anybody that's listening to this to reach out to you. If you have any interest in partnering with Mo, running some things by Mo, if you're like, oh my gosh, she would just be cool to chat to about XYZ, conversations need to flow. So how would they get a hold of you right now?
The best way would probably be either just DM me on Facebook, message me on Facebook, on Instagram, or you can email me at, my personal email is momaxta, MOMACSTA @gmail.com. And the Mac is my middle name, and the sta is because I'm gangster. Okay.
I like it.
That was from college. That was 21-year-old Margaret.
I love it.
My rapper name is Lil A Dizzle. So I can
of course it
is.
You.
It was not self-proclaimed. It was given.
And I was going to say, and I am obviously older than either of you because I don't have any of that. So
we're going to give you one. We'll find out.
We'll give you one, Jen. You just wait. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mo, for joining us and filling us in on what you've been doing, which has been just a light in the darkness. It really has been. And we are so excited for your next journey and whatever that may entail.
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast again. And I hope this one goes through for you guys.
Fingers, toes, everything.